what an honor to be here with two industry giants. Please welcome Taha Ahmned, Chief Growth Officer at Forbes, and of course, Yat Siu, Co-founder and Executive Chairman of Animoca Brands. It's really an honor, guys. Yat, could you please tell me what is Animoca's vision for the coming year?
Well, I think the vision for the coming year is the same vision for us as we had for all the other years and the years going forward, which is digital property rights, right? Our mission basically is to see a world where everyone has digital property, whether, we think which is basically a tokenized type of asset, whether it's virtual or physical, really, at the end of the day. And, we've been trying to push that vision forward by not just building in it, like with Mocaverse, or Sandbox or so on, but also by investing in it. And I think we're one of the largest investors in Web3 today, with over 540 portfolio companies and growing. And hopefully by the end of the year, maybe a few hundred more. I don't know. We'll see.
And which are the projects you're most excited about?
Well, that's like picking your favorite child. So can't do that. But I would say thematically, what we really like, obviously, is gaming. We're really excited about what's happening in the TON ecosystem. We're the largest validator and sort of big ecosystem supporters, because we think that TON will help onboard basically hundreds of millions of users into Web3 as well. And we'll talk a little bit about our partnership, which we think is also helping towards that. And of course, with Mocaverse, which we can talk about a little later, for digital identity and building reputation, which I think is very important for our industry as we want to mature that space. And again, we'll talk about that a bit with our partnership.
Of course. Taha, Forbes is a huge media company. How is Forbes bringing Web3 to masses?
GM, everybody. So good to be here. Forbes actually has been at the forefront of technology since over 100 years. In 1917, when the company was founded, right? They, on the first issue actually, we were championing entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial capitalism, right? As a way of prosperity for the world. And we all know what has happened over the last 100 years, hundreds and billions and trillions of wealth created through entrepreneurship. And 100 years later, looking at where we are in 2024, Web3 is also about building, investing, creating amazing companies like Animoca and what you guys are doing, investing and driving mass adoption there. And so for us, it is about celebrating Web3 entrepreneurship. And we think that as a result of doing that, we are going to inspire a large wave of builders, creators, investors to come in. And we think we have a role to play there.
And what has Forbes achieved in the space so far?
So let me tell you a little bit about Forbes Web3. So they often talk about us as a media company. We're obviously one of the largest business media brands in the world. But this team, Forbes Web3, is on the business side of the organization that is focused on building Web3 native and blockchain native products, platforms, and community. And we've started the business with community first in mind. So we don't have a layer one, or we didn't have like an NFT that we wanted to launch, or a club or anything of that sort. We started with people first, and which is very different, and often leads to questions like, what are you guys really doing in Web3? And and we understood this, by the way, in the first 1 or 2 months of launching this, that it is all about the people. It is all about how much value you're trying to generate for people, and are you winning the trust for the people and your members and your sort of community from day one. And we've been doing that organically, right? Like just putting the hard work, like all the companies that have building direct relationships with members, community, onboarding them in real life through events and everything that we were doing. And what has happened over the last 1 year, we've now become, according to our measure, one of the fastest growing community for entrepreneurs, investors, and builders through Forbes Web3. We are in several countries, 5 to 10 countries. We have done 20 plus events. But most importantly, what I'm very particularly happy about is that we've done things through not necessarily just a pure Web2 way We're not like growth hacking. We are partnering with companies in the space, right? We've done it with large exchanges. We did a big partnership with Coinbase just last week, right? And the community rewarded us. We, I think, are one of the, don't hold me to it, but like the biggest record for a Web2 brand on the base chain, 250,000 mints in 3 days, which is big. But before we were all of that stuff, we were able to partner with amazing companies like Animoca as well on supporting Web3 education and things like that. So, and I know we're going to talk more about it, but that is what our impact has been, and that's what we've been focused on.
Amazing, amazing. Yat, what can you tell us about Mochaverse? What it is, why it was created?
Well, I mean, first, I think, just quickly to build a little bit on what we just spoke about is, it's great to see a big brand like Forbes come into the space, and it shows essentially that mass adoption isn't just coming from the quantum of users, which is kind of what Ton does as well with Telegram, but with Forbes, it's about the quality of the users coming in, right? When you talk about hundreds of thousands of people that are coming in, who are they? They are entrepreneurs, they're investors, they're capitalists, they're builders. It's a different type. And that's actually how we have to think about building these networks. And that now leads on to how we think about identity and Mochaverse. Because in Mochaverse, what we're trying to do is build this sort of global reputation system, starting with gaming. Because in Web3, we do have one big problem, which is actually on-chain reputation doesn't really transfer across multiple projects. And so we have these problems about bots airdrops and so on. I have no idea sort of whether he's real or he's not, for instance. Yeah. With AI, you can do all sorts of things to fake identity. KYC is not enough, for instance. How do you do that? And in the real world, we have systems. It's your identity, it's your symbolic capital, like for instance, your university degree as an example, or your background, or your work background, right? The reason we have a name and a reputation in the physical world and we don't switch it every year, right, is precisely because we have a legacy we've built that gives us dividends in the future, right? Think about how you build your reputation in the physical world. That actually gives you value long-term in whatever society, community you're building in. And so Mocha ID is doing that with the Mochaverse. Basically, if you play games, for instance, are you a good gamer? How are you committing to the value of the network? Are you dumping your tokens right away when you get them? Like all these narratives that come into this build your reputation. Next thing, if I'm a game project or if I'm a kind of Web3 project, I will know who I want to reward based on your past behavior, which is how the real world works, right? If you've been a good citizen, you're rewarded a certain way. If you've been a bad one, you've been rewarded another way or not at all. And that's actually how we build scaling and stability in the system. So as we onboard, the sort of hundreds and thousands of capitalists or millions of other types of users into the ecosystem, we need to onboard them in a system which they can trust and we can build with reputation. And that's basically the vision of Mochaverse. And of course, this is something that starts with that gaming in our projects, but really extends beyond that. We've got a partnership with Ton and an addressable base of hundreds of millions of users that we basically want to onboard onto Mocha ID. And just as a closing point, today our digital identity is completely outsourced to Google or to Facebook or to any of those big companies, and you don't own your digital identity. If you lose access to Google or if you lose access to X, which they can do at any time, actually your entire digital history is wiped. But in blockchain, with essentially an ID, that's yours. And even if a service provider doesn't want to offer business to you, your reputation is still yours. It's not someone else's.
Thank you very much, Yat. Taha, and what about Forbes Legacy Pass?
Yeah. So when we started building the community and really laying the groundwork for how we want to expand there, right? Like we were sort of faced with this interesting, what people call high-class problem, which is the amount of inbound interest and the appetite for our brand, right? And we had to really create a mechanism through which we still want to participate and do things with the community, but we do it in a way where we're able to prioritize and focus on the people that really demonstrate their commitment to Forbes Web3, but most importantly, our vision, which led to the creation of Forbes Legacy Pass, which Forbes Legacy Pass is a collection of 1917 soul-bound passes, digital soul-bound passes on the blockchain. That unlocks significant benefits for its pass holders. This pass, I think it's the first soul-bound membership pass, or some people call it soul-bound, NFTs. You have to apply to get there. For right now, the wait list is over 100,000 people. Or now that our community has grown, the way you can enter the community is we've really decentralized this, and anytime if you get referred to by a member, you're able to join. The idea is we're not trying to be elite or anything, but through this process, we are really trying to identify the people who demonstrate commitment to the Web3 space. And since they've demonstrated the commitment, then we do with them. Like, we wanted to have a mechanism through which we can build with our community, and that has done that. And since we've launched in June, we are doing really well on that front. But now almost all the partnership opportunities that we have, or commercial opportunities actually that we have, we are able to, almost all of them come from pass holders. We're obviously very grateful for several communities around the world that have participated in it. Obviously grateful for Animoca, like the executive team part of it. Yat Siu is also a part of it, so thank you for your membership and early belief in our mission. But that's the idea, right? 1917, for anybody who cares about what 1970 is, it is the year of founding of Forbes, and we wanted to make it really symbolic for what we're doing.
Great. I understand there's an announcement from a partnership your team's going to announce in the near future, right? Is there something you would like to share about that?
You're going to hear it first. You're going to hear it first.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we can't really announce full details, but basically in Q4, Forbes and Animoca have already sort of put the steps forward to basically a major partnership, which we're proud to announce. But I guess you could consider it as a pre-announcement to an announcement coming through in a way. Woo, but I think one of the big things around this, as you'll hear about this more down the road, is I think this is, to me, sort of the direction of how do we bring institutions into Web3. I think this is something that at Animoca we've been looking at, how focusing on ourselves as a public corporation, but also who are the best representatives of the institutional era, I think, of Web3. And I think I can't think of anyone better than, obviously, basically Forbes, when you talk about sort of the people who read it, who are sort of involved in all of that. And just think about today, when a lot of people were saying, oh, well, we're not sure about Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, what does it really mean, decentralization, all that kind of stuff. But at the end, when they actually came in, when BlackRock came in, when Van Eck, when Fidelity, when all those guys basically came into the Web3 space buying the ETFs, everyone was like clapping and yay, right? And that's actually what we need. We need more of the institutional capital. I mean, the public equity market in the US is 80% institutional, but it's the complete opposite in Web3. So I think if you want to have a more stable, more friendly, more open ecosystem, that's actually also one that will be more embraced, I think we need to bring in institutions, and I can't think of any better partner than to do that than right here.
Taha?
Awesome. Well, why don't we give it a little bit more to people, because I think I'm going to lead a lot of people asking for questions, right? Before I get more detail, like it is important to understand the context. As I mentioned, partnership has been a critical tool, mechanism for Forbes Web3 to be able to really go country by country and build a robust credibility and partnership with that. And we're obviously grateful for all the things that we've done with various different partners. Working with Animoca was one of the earliest partnerships that we've done. We've honestly done it virtually. We've done it in different parts of the world. And it was a very natural transition because both companies have been working towards somewhat of the same mission, but in different ways. And as a result of this sort of deeper connection on a mission level, when our Legacy Pass launched, we recognized that one of the Legacy members actually helped us do this analysis, and it turns out that the largest group, like the biggest holdings of Legacy Pass holders, is actually the Mocaverse, right? And that was incredible right? Like thinking about like all the stuff that you're doing on digital IP, all the things you're sort of talking about, equity ownership and equality and things like that.
And also open campus, right?
Yeah, we did the open campus, celebrating education and driving adoption from there. The various different conversations we've done with the team. So this is how sort of the partnership came about, and what people can expect. I'll stop there because the more details are going to come, otherwise our social people are going to not like us. Because of what each one of the brands represent, we've built a very robust benefit suite through the legacy pass, all the benefits that we've been offer, and through an initiative that we'll be launching soon. We're very proud, we're very happy about it. We will be extending the Forbes legacy pass benefits to the Mocaverse holders, and this partnership, I think, is one of its kind. Has not been done at the scale through which, because it'll be very symbolic, at least in my opinion.
I think so, and it's also highly symbolic, because in one way I would say that Animoca represents the trust and commitment of the Web3 community, and you basically represent that of, I guess, the Web2 world, and we have to bring them together, right? And that's actually really what our mission is, which is mass adoption, and how do we bring people from Web2 into Web3. And this happens not just on the consumer level at large scale, but also at very high level brand partnerships. It's kind of building trust, and building trust is built on reputation. And so we're both leveraging our joint reputations to basically build the Web3 ecosystem without giving away too much.
I see such a natural partnership there, right? It's that how you feel it?
Absolutely.
It's absolutely natural. And I think you can see, for instance, in one way we also share those values. Ultimately, what Forbes is and Forbes Web3 is pushing is an entrepreneurial capitalist future, to be clear, right? That's what we believe at Animoca as well. That's what we believe ultimately Web3 and blockchain is at heart a capitalist system. And I would say also, broadly speaking, I think capitalism is somewhat under threat in the world from a political perspective.
True.
There's a lot of people who don't understand it, dislike it, but in large part also because they haven't benefited from it. And I think this is, again, part of the mission. And how do we do that? Right? It's a mission of media, communication, our communities. The Mocaverse holders are actually not sort of just users. They are investors, they're builders, and they're actually very, very compatible with the Forbes audience. But then think about just generally the Web3 audience. Anyone who's entered the Web3 audience, maybe made some money, holds tokens, actually what happens to them? They become capitalists. Every Web3 user is a capitalist. When they hold one token, you become a capitalist. You're a property owner, and suddenly you're in the system. And just think about your own experiences. When you made some money on tokens, did you just cash it out? Or did you actually reinvest it back in the ecosystem and do some other things and invest in other things? So I think, again, that's actually how the future of any economy was built, which is to reinvest in it. And that's what's happening in Web3. And I think, again, this is a natural partnership.
I also think like just the synergies between our various teams that are working, it's very natural, right? Like they're members of the executive team are legacy pass holders, and I don't think you know, but we own a Mocaverse in our vault, one of the earliest NFTs.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, no, we did it long before, so that was one of our first one in the vault.
Great, amazing. So as we're preparing to wrap up the panel, guys, what's your outlook for Web3? Can you share your experience and what do you see for the future?
Bitcoin price, just kidding. Anyway, I mean, first, I think that to me, Web3 and blockchain has demonstrated through really the last 12 to 18 months that it is a force to be reckoned with, right? At the end of the day, given all its instability that we've seen in the global markets, it's actually proven to be one that has won people over into the space, so it's here to stay. And I actually think what we're going to see in the next 6 to 12 months is much more broader mass adoption at multiple levels. We can look at ETFs really as the first taste for the institution. So I do think we're heralding the beginning of an institutional age of Web3, where larger offices and groups are looking at it. ETFs are not going to stop only at Bitcoin and at ETH, right? You're going to get different altcoins that will start playing in these ETFs and ETP space. I think gaming is going to bring in basically hundreds of millions of users in the space, but ultimately the impact will also come from other builders and entrepreneurs around the world, with our partnerships like this that basically go into the space. So we're very bullish about it. There's macro conditions. And finally, of course, I think we will all be looking very, very tightly at the US election.
That's true. Taha?
I certainly agree with all the things that you mentioned. And, from our perspective, as I'm seeing this, I'll take a different stance on it. First one is, I think Web3 is becoming very politically relevant now, and it's part of national debates there, and as a result of that,
political campaigns.
And political campaigns, and as a result, the more it gets talked about in the developed world, I think the developing world is going to follow suit and would want to take part in that, and as a result, I think that's going to be a very strong tailwind for Web3 adoption. And so that's just, there's a big tailwind coming on that side. And from like a Web2 branch corporation side, I think more companies are going to realize the power of community and investing in communities earlier on, and hopefully will follow suit in terms of how we've been just before we even build a product, we focus on community and listening to people. I think more and more companies are going to follow that in that way.
Okay. Thank you very much, gents.
Thank you.
It has been an honor to moderate this panel with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you so much.